What are you doing? You're down by the Jersey Shore in summer mode. I'm looking at your scene is so relaxing.
I'm a chill dude, man. What can I say?
I guess you are, pal. I guess you are. So what's on your mind today?
Well, we have obviously Memorial Day weekend this weekend. The weather here in Jersey is supposed to be pretty lousy. But you had some great weather for a wedding you just played. How was that? It was a backyard wedding, right?
Oh yeah, last night. And thank you for asking. But I should say something, Duke, before we go any further. Folks, Amy couldn't be with us today, so she'll join us with the next podcast. I hear the refrigerator turned on. But Amy will be with us the next podcast. Yeah, we had some really nice weather. It's the first wedding I've ever played in on a Tuesday night, but I guess it's COVID or coming out of COVID or was COVID or is COVID. So you never know what you're in for, Duke.
A Tuesday night wedding, that is unusual. Now, before you said Amy's refrigerator turned on. What are you talking about?
No, I think I'm losing my mind. There's a refrigerator next to me in this room. I'm not in my house, but there's a refrigerator that just turned on.
Oh.
But no, I wanted to just tell the folks out there that Amy's not with us today, and we certainly miss her. And we did want to wish her happy birthday because it was Monday, just a few days ago.
Just passed, yep. Yeah, happy birthday, Amy.
Happy birthday, Amy.
So I had the good fortune of a buddy of mine, a drummer buddy, just got a couple other drummers together, and we hung out in his backyard and had some pizza and stuff like that. And generally, we get a big group of guys and we go out for lunch and we do a nice big drum hang. You've been to one of them, I know.
Yes.
We had, some great local guys and some well-known guys there as well. But it got me thinking, our drumming community is just such a great group of people. Now, I'm sure in every instrument circle, there are really nice guys, but I just sense that for whatever reason that I couldn't tell you, the drumming community is much more unified than among, say, guitar players or singers or flutists. I don't know.
I will say this much. It's probably because no one knows who we are. Anyways, I would agree with you. I mean, a lot of the drummers I know are really cool guys. Like, they'll let you. I wouldn't ask someone to sit in, but if you did, they let you sit in. If you have an equipment problem, they'll help you. I would tend to agree that drummers tend to, because we know that drummers always get abused the most. That's why. So we all understand, like we're the centers to Tom Brady. We're the necessary component, but right. No one knows who the center is. But I will say this much though. I have seen a lot of camaraderie, Duke, though, with other instruments, horn players, guitar players, bass players. But I think drummers understand our instrument. We're not, the best way I could describe it is we're the center to Tom Brady. No one knows who the center is. He's been there for probably all 7 Super Bowls, or at least most of them, and he's a necessary component. But I guarantee if you went to Gillette Stadium and asked 50,000 people, what's the name of the center? Probably 5 people, and that's his family would know who he is.
That's his family. That's funny. Point well taken. It's a good analogy. I've never thought of drummers as being the center, but yeah. I mean, it's a good point.
Well, think about it, Duke. I mean, you can't run a play. You can't do anything. And no one ever thinks about it. I forgot what team it was this last year. It became an issue with the center. He just kept, there were bad snaps and it became problems with field goals. But, people take it for granted. And think about it for drummers. We're just taking for granted. Guitar players can make mistakes, bass players make mistakes, but the minute a drummer makes a mistake, you get that. No matter what it is, we can make one mistake in 4 hours and you get the look back. I'm like, what are you doing? You made 20 mistakes. So I think we understand the animal. We understand the instrument. And everyone thinks, as you well know, everyone thinks they're a drummer.
Also, you bring up the thought in my mind that, to be a good drummer is to be a team player, somebody who wants to support the team, someone who wants to support the music as opposed to be the shining star. And generally, those are the guys who, I see in the groups of drummers who are hanging out, joining one another, enjoying each other's company, talking about this, that, and the other thing, drum heads, recordings, whatever, gigs, doesn't matter. But yeah, it's the team mentality that I think drummers have that makes what I think is the majority of drummers, unified like that. Now, there are, of course, the exceptions to the rule, the guys who are the look at me guys, but I've had the good fortune of not having them be at, any of the drum hangs, because that wouldn't be fun either.
I think I've met maybe if I have a career, maybe two guys that I thought they were completely unapproachable and just nasty for some reason. I don't know why, but no, for the most part, if you go up to a guy and say, hey, what kind of drum set is this? Or how'd you play that? I've never had someone like scream at me or, say it's $5 for an autograph or something. I think they're pretty cool. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be. Like, folks, I've asked Duke before, like, how do you do this? How do you play that? How do you tune? I'll be the first one to say it. I'm not a technical person. So I'll throw a name out there like Ryan Carver. He sets up my drums for me. I could be on a deserted island for a million years. I could never set my drums up the way he does. And just by talking to people, you're right. They're very cooperative. They're very helpful. And there's really no reason not to be. So when people aren't, I don't understand why they are, because who cares? I mean, really, everybody's so different. And there are some, just like the opinion of music, there are some drummers that people think are amazing. And I've told you my famous story. My famous story was, I'll never forget this. I learned my lesson, folks, 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, where I had a very, very good friend in high school, and we went to go see Rush. And he said, we're going to go see your band, and then we're going to go see my band afterwards. I said, no problem. I said, I'll pick Rush. We went to go see Rush. He said, let's go see your band. We went to the Palladium and saw the Ramones. And this guy was not even a musician, but he was always like talking Ramones to me. So he turns around to me. I'll never forget this. He turns around to me and he says, I told you Joey Ramone is as good as Neil Peart, but he's as good as Neil Peart. And that's when I realized, what difference does it make? People can think that, they can think whatever they think. They don't know. So there's no reason not to share stuff. And you never know when you need the help, right, Duke? Even though you're a great drummer, I'm sure you ask people for questions or help.
Absolutely. I'm struggling with something now. Somebody who I highly respect gave me a bit of advice that I pursued, and I'm trying to implement that advice, and it's really, really tough. But I'm grateful for it, and I think that's brings up the point that I think most drummers who are part of this community, they want to keep growing as players. They want to keep learning. There's always a desire to become, a little bit more than what they are at the moment. Some people are passionate about learning, and others are just like, well, I just want to keep getting better, and it's not like a something that they're studying all day long, but in general, we all just want to be better players and support the team the best we can.
I agree with you. And listen, I really think it's even more simple than that. I think it's karma. At least that's been my experience. I think it's karma. If a guy comes up and talks to you and you help him, you might meet someone else and they turn around and help you. More often than not, that happens to me. And like I said, there's no reason. Life is too short. There's no reason to be like, I'm not going to tell you this, or I'm going to be a jerk or whatever, because you never know when you need the help. Plus, if you are out there trying to get more work, are you going to sub? Are you going to call a guy to sub to who's nasty to you, or some guy who's unapproachable? You're going to call a guy, you're like, I met this guy. He's really nice. He's cool. He won't steal my gig, or he won't embarrass me. He's a nice guy. There's no reason not to. And, they're really good guys. But I do agree with you. I think that it's a great community. I could think of several drummers like you I adore, love. They're great people, and they help out. And it's good to know that you can share things with people. I'm sure you have too. And they know what you're talking about. They understand. And they go right to it. Because I've tried to talk to other musicians who don't play the instrument, and I will throw an example out there. If you don't have a good sound man and you have to play gorilla because you can't hear yourself or you can't be heard, and you try to explain that to another musician who may just simply turn a knob, they don't get it. They're like, oh, just turn your sticks around. I'll just play a little harder. They don't understand. If you're doing Tommy Lee already, there's nowhere to go from there. So I appreciate, and I find it hysterical when I do talk to other drummers. They can be national act drummers, and they're like, I know what you're talking about. So I do appreciate that very, very much.
I
I
don't
know
know if
you do
you
too, right?
absolutely. I don't know if you've ever had. I would bet that you have, but I've played one. I played one double bill once, and the drummer before me was a great drummer, and he asked me, "Can I use your set?" And I was like, "Sure, no problem." So he used my set, and I went up to do the gig, and he all he did was replace. He put his cymbals on instead of my cymbals. So I went up, and the singer, counts off the first tune, and we start going, and the crowd is like amped up, really, really amped up, and the drummer before me changed the tension on my bass drum pedal. Now I don't know anybody who I don't know if I can make a good analogy of what it's like, but it's as if somebody for a guitar player changed the action on the strings, or the space from the neck to the strings, or somebody put hot sauce in the ketchup bottle for a cook. It's like just threw me totally. I mean, it wasn't a slight difference in tension. It was a huge difference in tension. And I know a lot of people will say, well, a good drummer should be able to deal with it. Oh, I dealt with it, but I was pissed. I was so pissed. I was like, dude, if you're going to borrow my stuff, have the courtesy to put it back the way it was. That's cool, but put it back the way it was.
I would think, in my experience, I have done that like you. In my experience, most guys will not. They know I won't touch something unless they ask you, like, can I change this or change that?
Right.
And that's fine. But no, you should not. That's like changing, again, probably a poor analogy, but the Patriots. That's like saying I want a football that's a little harder, a little softer, and changing the deflate gate on the ball.
I was gonna say Tom Brady did that, didn't he? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, he did, but that helped him. But yeah, you really can't do that, and most people don't do that. So that's an unusual situation from what I've experienced. But I don't, you're going to have that with a lot of times if you're going to share with people. But I find most drummers are usually courteous. They will ask,
absolutely,
can I move this?
Absolutely.
Can I do this? Can I do that? They don't start retuning your drums or changing the tension rods or tension spring on your bass pedal. That's kind of a no-no. And you're right. That's like changing the action on the guitar. You don't do that.
It was just like, wow. I was not happy, and I let him know afterwards. But that is a rarity. Most of the time, I would agree. Most people are so respectful.
Many people would not have the nerve to do that. That's just rude. I mean, you just don't do that without telling the person. And that's a very intricate. Once you get that feel, folks, you don't want to touch it. That's you just don't mess with it. At least from what I'm really, really good. They don't care and everything else. So they don't mind. Which is also another reason why I really don't like people playing my drums, because they will come up and they will just start moving stuff around. Non-drummers or sometimes want to come up and just start hitting everything, and things are moving and falling down or whatever. And that's why I'm a little cautious sometimes about other people playing. But if they're respectful, that's great. But that's a no-no, dude. You can't do that.
Yeah. But again,
especially if it's a Duke Clement trio, you're really not supposed to do that.
Most drummers, though, are very respectful. Most seasoned pros are very respectful, and it's not an issue. But I talk about it because that really got me when I was like not expecting that, and we had the dance floor was just. It was just one of those kind of crowds that everybody would want, everybody was just so into it, and it was just threw me off balance.
And that's a hard adjustment. Because if you go from very hard, very tense to very loose or opposite, if you're used to one way or another, that's a very hard adjustment to make on the fly. It's like having your foot stuck to the floor with glue.
Yeah. I like it very loose, the pedal very soft.
Yes.
And he tensioned it up real tight. And I was like, wow, it was weird. Not that there's, one way is right or the other. It just was odd to me, So I got a Istanbul Jazz. Well, it's a Istanbul ride cymbal. It's a Turk cymbal the other day, and I love it. Have you ever played Istanbul?
I have. What size did you get?
It's a 20-inch. It's a Turk.
20-inch, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really.
And what do you think about it?
Love it. I really love it.
No, I played Istanbul. I played a lot of the, I really haven't played, what I was saying was I haven't really played a bad cymbal out there, but Istanbul are very good. Very good. Now, 20-inch ride, you like the smaller rides or you like the bigger, the 24 and so forth? Or
I really like from 20. I like all the sizes, but I don't like carrying them, so I just use a 20 because they're so big.
That's why you don't need to go to the gym in summer, dude, because you're carrying your cymbals around.
That's right. And when people are saying you want a cart for this, I'm like, this is my gym membership. I don't need anything other than hauling my hardware back and forth.
I want to echo your original theme. I have noticed, this is just my opinion, and I don't talk to other musicians about their constituents. I think drummers also, believe it or else, tend to be less judgmental. Like if a guy is maybe not as good as them, and that's hard to say who's better, or maybe they're not as accomplished or something. I hear a lot of drummers talking. I don't think there is, you definitely hear comments here and there, but I don't hear like he sucks or she sucks or this or that. I think they tend to be less judgmental, which again, in my personal belief, goes back to the understanding of the instrument. Because by far, I think you will agree, it's the most physical instrument to play.
Sure. But what you're talking about is also a maturity thing. I mean, high school, that's high school crap, As adults, it's like, well, at one point that's where I was at. That doesn't mean, doesn't mean I sucked. That was just my point of development,
Yeah. Well, listen, it's like anything else. You go out there and play your best, but I do think what comes around goes around. And I think if you're really good, like we've had Ilya on here, he was tremendous. We've had a lot of great drummers on here, and they are more than happy to share their stuff. And I think it comes back to, so I would tend to agree with you. It's a pretty close-knit community, but I think it really does. Honestly, it's not a negative comment. I think it comes back to the understanding of what you are. I mean, if you're a lineman, again, using the football analogy, you're not going to hang out with the wide receivers. If you're a lineman, the lineman hang out with the lineman.
Drummers and bass players, I would say, are part
and
of
bass
that group,
players.
Yes. I know some of them. Awesome bass players.
Yes,
great
absolutely.
people.
And there's a lot of great bass players out there. There's nothing better, folks, than a bass player who will play with the drummer. Nothing better.
Yeah. Well, until next time, folks, keep on drumming, keep enjoying music and the arts, and we'll see you then.